with different wine, water, different halachas. Basic rule is that when you have what's called a min b'mino, things that are the same species or similar together, can one nullify the other? First opinion said no. Rabbi Yehuda always says yes, based off a verse we had in Menachos. Okay, and then we had, at the very end, I explained it, is that Rabbi Yehuda says, when do you have the mitzvah? When it says, it's the last line of the Mishnah, Bizman she'ein sham dam elahu, aval yesh sham dam shelohu, pater melechasos. So literally it means when you only have that blood, but if you have other blood and not just that blood, then you're pater. So what it means is that when you have a lot of blood there, so then as long as you cover up some of it, you're good to go. You don't have to cover up all of it. So that we're going to see more on the next page. So Tanan Hassam. So says the Gemara goes back to this idea of blood being mixed with water, with wine. We have a very similar Mishnah in Zvachim, and comes up again in Menachos. So dam, there the blood, obviously talking about the blood of the animal you're going to use for the altar. Tanan Hassam dam shenis arev b'mayim im yesh bo maris dam kasher. If you have blood mixed with water and it still remains looking like blood, so then it's valid to be used on the altar. Nisar of b'yayin mixed with wine. Okay, so now it depends. Rono so kilu humayin. The first opinion holds. You have to figure out if this wine would have been water, would it have nullified the blood? Yes or no. If yes, you can't use it, and if no, then you could use it. So that's the same as what we're saying. Nisare b'dam behema. Let's say it gets mixed with b'dam behema o b'dam achaya. So the blood of the sacrifice gets mixed with another animal or with a wild animal. Same thing. Rono so kilu humayim. You look at it as if it's water and see what would have been. If it would have been water, would it have nullified yes or no? Rabbi Yehuda Omer ein dam mevatel dam. Rabbi Yehuda says, like our Mishnah, ein dam mevatel dam. Blood cannot nullify blood. Two things in the same species don't nullify each other. Even if you have 100 times more blood, that's not good, and you have a little bit of blood that is good, the things of the same species do not nullify each other. Now, yeah. So the Gemara in Zvachim says, whoa, 1 second. What came first? What came second? Right now you have blood and water mixed together. What came first? What came second? Meaning, was there water on the floor and wine and blood fell in? Or was there blood on the floor and water fell in? How did this mixture come about? Now it's going to make a big difference. Why? Let's see. So lo shanu ela shenaflu mayim l'sogdam. We only figure out this ratio of, well, how much water is there to nullify the blood? Is there enough or not? If the water fell into the blood. However, aval nafal dam l'soch mayim, let's say blood fell into the water. So this opinion holds that you look at each drop of blood that goes into the water. Each drop of blood is nullified when it gets into the water. It's so little. So therefore, aval nafal dam l'soch mayim rishon batal. Each drip drop that falls in is going to be nullified. That is all according to Reb Chia, Baba name of Rabbi Yochanan, over there by Zvachim. Amar of Papa, ula inyan kisui eino kain. When it comes to the mitzvah of covering over the blood, kisui hadam, this is not the same, meaning that even if you have water and now you have the blood of the animal you just slaughtered and it falls in, we don't say rishon batal. We don't say every drop of blood that falls in is nullified and therefore there's no mitzvah. Why don't we say that? Why is it not similar? Ein dichui eitzel mitzvah. We had earlier this idea that just because, what's going to happen? It's going to drop in, every drop of blood is going to drop into the water. And what's going to happen? You're going to view every drop as nullified. But then what's going to happen? At the end of the day, it's going to be a pool of red, a pool of blood. So when it fell in for that second hit the water, it's nullified. Oh, we view it as water. After you do all the little drippy drops, you have a pool of blood. So what's going to happen now? Now you're liable. So what happened in the middle? That moment in time when you were exempt. Because if you look at each drop individually, you never had a drop that was obligated in covering over. But now that you look at it together, now you are obligated. So Rav was saying, when it comes to mitzvahs, we don't say that since it had a moment of time that you're exempt, so therefore you're going to be exempt forever. Like you would say by invalidation of a sacrifice, that if it becomes invalid, even if it becomes valid afterwards, too late, it's already invalid. By mitzvahs, we don't say that, and therefore we look at the final result. Is there a pool of blood or is there a pool of water? But the fact that it got nullified in the middle doesn't take away from the mitzvah. I'm still trying to find, I couldn't find last night, that whole case of the worm in the fleece where he put it into water and then he told him, shecht into the water and you're exempt from kitzur adam. We have Mishnah after Mishnah, and Gemara is telling us that putting blood in water, you're still obligated on the mitzvah of covering the blood. So why did he tell him to put your fleece into water and then check the animal into the water? Because you're exempt from the mitzvah. It sounds like putting into water, you're obligated in the mitzvah. I don't know. I was trying to find someone who says it. But either way, so at the end of the day, if you have blood that was slaughtered and it goes into a pool of water, so now you look at the final result. Is it diluted or is it not diluted? If it remains red, blood, mitzvah to cover it over.
Have to be a certain shade of red.
A certain shade of red. How much diluted is diluted? All the Mishnah said was it has the appearance of red. So saying, at what point do you say that's not red anymore?
That's what you say it is red.
That's a very good question. I don't know. Meaning, you can go both ways. Do you start with clear, and anything which is not clear is red, or do you go the other way? Anything which is this darkness, that's red, and it's lighter is already diluted. I don't know.
Oh.
Maris Dam Nicker. It sounds like any redness.
Any red.
That's what it really sounds like, yeah. If not, I should say something.
Different shades of red.
Like paint chips. Yeah. There's tens and hundreds of different shades of red, yeah. Right, yeah.
Your aniline dye into whatever, and as it changes, or test your pH, is pale yellow, a little bit less pure.
The Mishnah in Nida does talk about 5 different shades of red, and there it talks about it, and there's a lot of discussion that a darker, lighter, you have even black is red. That's a darkened red. So you have different, okay, so that's what Papa is saying. It's not the same by the mitzvah of kitzur adam as it is by slaughtering. Fine. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Kol Mara Admimus. So now Shmuel says a statement. The question is going to be, we don't need you for this statement. We have it already in earlier sources. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, he says, Kol Mara Admimus, any appearance of red will do what? Mechaprin. He'll use the blood and it'll atone for the sacrifices. Umachshirin, and it's also one of the liquids. We know that for something to be susceptible to impurity, it has to get wet. It has to get wet from one of the liquids. Blood is one of the liquids, as long as it has an appearance of red and it now hits your grape, and then something impure touches your grape, the grape will be impure. And that's our Mishnah. So hold on. We have Zvachim a Mishnah and Chulin a Mishnah. We don't need Shmuel. So, my Kamashwalan, thanks but no thanks, yeah. What are you teaching me? Mechaprin, that it atones. Tanina, that's a Mishnah in Zvachim. Chayavin Bekisu, it's liable in covering the blood. Tanina, that's a Mishnah in Chulin. Says the Gemara, we need this statement for the third case. Machshirin itztrichale, for the case of it being susceptible to impurity. So says the Gemara, 1 second, what's the case? Machshirinami, you have a mixture of water and blood. So, idam, if it's blood, akshuri machshir. Imaya, akshuri machshir. I don't get it. If it's a mixture, you have a cup of blood mixed with water. And now Shmuel said you should know that can cause susceptibility to impurity. Well, yeah, if it's blood, it's one of the liquids. If it's water, it's one of the liquids. So there's no novelty in that. It's one of the liquids. So lo tzricha shetamdu b'megeshamim. Blood got mixed with rainwater. Now, rainwater, the rule of susceptibility for impurity is you have to want it. Somehow you have to show that you want the water on your fruits. So the fact that rainwater happened to hit it is not a reason for automatically making it susceptible to impurity. But let's say you have blood that got mixed with it. Okay, so now you have blood you wanted. At least you wanted the blood out of the animal. Rainwater was not up to you if you wanted it or not. I'm just wondering. By blood, we say you check the animal, so you want the blood out. Fine. Let's say at this time of the year where you're praying for the rain. I never saw such a distinction. That's considered wanting the rain for susceptibility for impurity, because you don't want the rain necessarily on your fruit. I guess that's the point. So blood. Let's say blood you want it out of the animal. So blood you want, but now it get mixed together with the rainwater that you don't want. That Shmuel says, okay, if it has an appearance of red, it's still considered the liquid that you wanted, and therefore it will cause susceptibility to impurity, as opposed to if it's water, if it's just clear, there's too much rainwater that you didn't want on your fruits, and therefore it's not going to be susceptible to impurity. So Rashi points out the very first Mishnah in Machshirin, the whole section of Machshirin, everything that causes susceptibility to impurity. It's called Machshirin. So the first Mishnah there says, even though something you wanted to come out, let's say blood, you wanted the blood out of the animal, right? You're shechting it. So you wanted it out. You didn't necessarily want it on your fruits. So even that is considered that you wanted it. I mean, as long as in the beginning you wanted the blood out, the fact that you didn't want it on your fruits, it'll still make it susceptible to impurity, as opposed to rain, you wanting, not wanting, it's there. So that's Shmuel's novelty. So now, says the Gemara, one second, but rainwater, Megesham Nami came with the Shakil Varami, so then Achshivinu. One second, where is this rainwater? It's not just on your roof. You put into a cup, you put into a bowl. Like, how's it getting mixed together with your blood? It's got to be in a receptacle. Oh, it's in a receptacle? So you took rainwater and put it into a receptacle? So you want the rainwater. Once you want the rainwater in a receptacle, that's considered wanting it. And therefore, once again, there's no novelty. If it's water, it's good. And if it's blood, it's good. Oh, lo tzricha she nismadu me'alehen. No, they got mixed up. We need the novelty for a case. They got mixed up on their own. Okay, what's a case that got mixed up on their own? Somehow the rainwater spilled into a vessel and the blood went into the same vessel. Either way, no, it doesn't. Say again?
The rain fell into a vessel.
So you have a vessel of blood. Okay, good, thank you. And the rainwater fell into a vessel of blood. So you never collected the rainwater; it fell in. So you happen to leave your sacred bucket of blood in an area where the rainwater went in. So that's the case where now Shmuel is saying, now it depends. Does it look like blood or it looks like water? And that will determine if it's going to be susceptible to impurity. If it's water, it's rainwater. You never wanted it in the vessel. If it's blood, you originally wanted it, even though you didn't want it on your fruits, obviously. You don't want a lot of blood on their fruits. That's the really interesting people. Which I'm sure we could find in this part of the country. Don't worry. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Depends on the person, I guess. Yeah. So you can't eat blood, right? Yeah. Okay. So Rav Asi min Harbil Omer Bitzlalasa de Dama. So he says there's a case. It's like, I don't know the English translation necessarily, but it's like in the blood, there's also some water. When the blood gets congealed, so around the blood there's some water, some liquid. So now that outer part of the congealed blood, what does it look like? Does it look like water or it looks like blood? Depending on how it looks, will determine if it's gonna, and it touches now a grape or whatever, a fruit, a food, it'll now determine if that's susceptible to impurity. What exactly is the case? I can't really picture it. Never really congealed blood.
I mean, it's like when you scab.
When you have a scab, okay.
Before the scab really forms, sometimes it's kind of a bit of a wet.
Okay.
Around it that's kind of I think
Okay.
that's what they're talking about, because, you know,
Little
it's-
wet area around the blood, but it comes from the blood. So now
Mhm.
that wetness, if it's clear, so then it's just like water, and therefore if it's clear, so then it's not considered blood, so it won't be susceptible to impurity. And if it's red, so then it's considered blood, and therefore it will cause susceptibility to impurity.
Any shade.
Oh, good. That answers your question. Any shade, yeah. Because the lashon of the Mishnah is kol mara admumis. It sounds like any shade of red. Yeah. Okay. Rabbi Yirmiyah midifti Amar onish kares. This. So now it's a little bit parenthetical. This congealed blood, you should know, one who eats it. Told you the interesting people. Yeah. One who eats it. So one who eats it, he gets kares, but it has to have a olives amount of kazayis. Meaning, don't think that this is not under the prohibition. It still is. One sec. He's referring to this wet part or the congealed blood? The wet part, right? Congealed blood is obvious. So, this wet part, even that part, you have a lot of blood, even that wetness, one is liable for, as long as they have a kazayis of it, an olive's worth. Delicious. Yeah. So, and that little amount will also cause impurity. Impurity, blood comes out of somebody in a ohel, in a tent called ohel mace. So, but it has to have a revius. That's the amount you need. That's going to cause impurity. Fine. Let's do. Yeah, that's what you need for impurity, and kazais you need for the eating prohibition. Okay. Okay, so now here comes it's going to take us to the next mission on the next page. So it says Tanan Hasam. It's really a Bryce, not a Mishnah. So Kol, usually Tanan's a Mishnah, here it means a Bryce. Kol mashke hames tehorin. So any liquid coming out of a dead person is pure, not impure. Rashi says example is you have tears. So a person who passed away, after they pass away, there's wetness coming out of their eyes, or let's say by an isha, there's milk that comes out. Chal of isha, Rashi says, two liquids that could come out of a person after they pass away. So now those they don't mention urine, but presumably that would also be a case. So those are tehorin chutz mi damo. So those are not going to cause impurity. Chutz mi damo. The blood will. Okay, let's see more. V'chol mar, again, that language, any shade of red, right? V'chol mar admumis shabo metam ma'ol. Any redness coming out of the person, even after they die, will cause impurity in the tent. I think we're going to see in a second. It's going to be it's rabbinic, not biblical. The kol mara admumis shabo metam ba'ohel. Okay, now 1 second. Umashke hameis tehorin, liquids that coming out of a deceased are pure. I'm going to prove to you that it's not true. V'raminhu mashke tvul yom. So we have somebody who's impure. He went to mikvah already, and now he's waiting. He's waiting for the sun to set. So now, So now, liquids that are coming out of him. So he's a first degree. Liquids coming out of him are a second degree of impurity. Now, except for truma and kachim, you cannot continue impurifying things. There's no past the second degree when it comes to regular mundane things. Only by truma or holy things you can get to degree, third degree and fourth degree. However, there's a rabbinic enactment that liquids, when they touch something, it's as if it was a first degree touching it, and it'll turn the thing into a first degree. That's a rabbinic enactment, I think, from Masechah Shabbos. So now, mashke tvul yom, ki mashkin shenogeh behen. So mashke v'tvul yom, the liquids that come out of somebody that is a tvul yom, somebody who was impure, waiting for the mikvah, and now went to the mikvah and is waiting for sunset. Liquids that come out of him have the same status as liquids that he touches, meaning the ve'elu ein mitamin, and these two do not cause impurity. These liquids that come out of him are not going to cause impurity. However, the shar kol hatmein, and we'll see what this refers to, but the rest of impurities, whether they're lenient or stringent, we'll see who is that referring to. Who's the lenient impurity and who's the stringent impurity, we'll see. Those, in those cases, we're going to see that the liquid that leaves a person is the same status as a liquid that someone touches. The elu techila. And they're both going to cause what they touch to be a first degree of impurity, because it's actually mentioned earlier that even a second degree of impurity can cause, if it touches something, can cause it can cause liquids. If you're a second degree and you touch a liquid now, you can cause that liquid to be a first degree of impurity. The elu techila, chutz min hamashke shehu av hatuma, except for the liquid, which is a av atuma. So, what are those examples? So, there's the avi avos atuma, the father of the fathers of impurity. The stringent is someone who dies. The next level is an av atuma, it can cause something to be a first degree of impurity. So, what's an av atuma? An av atuma is something like a zav, things that zav or zava is certain emissions that come out of the person. Those are called av atuma. Spit that comes out of someone who's impure, urine that comes out, semen that comes out of somebody who's impure. All those are all those are not going to cause impurity. So now let's just back up for a second. We brought this cryptic brisa to ask a question. We had a statement that someone who's dead, if liquid comes out of them, it does not cause impurity. Then we brought this brisa that says a tvul yom, someone who's waiting for nightfall to be pure, if things come out of him or her, that's like something which they touch, and therefore it's not going to cause impurity. But the rest of them, shar, whatever the rest is, the rest kol atmei and bein kam and chamur, so that is going to cause impurity. So now, what are these other impurities of categories of impurity of lenient and stringent? What did the brisa mean? It was a cryptic statement. Mai kalin umai chamurin. What does it mean, lenient and stringent? Mai lav kalin, when it says lighter levels of impurity, it's referring to a sheretz. So let's say a creepy crawly urinates, right? So that mai lav kalin is sheretz v'zav, and a zav, the one who emits ziva, zov. So those are the lighter ones. The chamurin and the stringent was referring to someone who passed away. That's mace. That's the most stringent. So, and if that's true, so then it says, so if it's true, so then it's an explicit brisa that says that the things which come out of someone who's dead are going to cause impurity. And that would fly in the face of our statement of the brisa in Shirin probably. No, a brisa in Olos, Shirin also, yeah. So is liquid that comes out of a dead person, is it going to be cause impurity or not? One brisa said it doesn't. This brisa says it does. Says the Gemara, no. When the brisa was referring to stringent and lenient cases of, categories of impurity, it was not referring to someone who passed away. Rather, kalin sheretz. The lighter was referring to a sheretz, a creepy crawly, and chamurin was a zav, and the stricter level was talking about a zav. So now the question is, Ma yishna zav de gazr be rabbanon, u'ma yishna meis de lo gazr be rabbanon. So 1 second, why did you decree, here you see it's rabbinic, why did you decree that things that come out of the zav, liquids that come out of the zav, will cause impurity? It will cause something else to be a first degree, like the regular rule of liquids touching another liquid, it will cause it to be a first degree. And by someone who's dead, if the liquid comes out of the dead person, that you did not make a decree that those liquids are going to cause impurity. Why not? So zav de lo badili in shimine, a zav is not someone we stay away from, a regular person in society. So therefore, we were more stringent. The things that you're more in contact with are going to be more stringent. Because of Rabbanon. Mace, a person who's dead, usually people stay away, unless you're part of the Chaber Kedisha. But mace, the badili in shimine, a deceased people that people stay away from. So lo gazru bei Rabbanon. There they did not make a decree.
So the secretions from the corpse
Impure.
pure.
Pure. Thank you.
Okay. But if they touch something,
Pure.
still pure.
Pure.
So I'm confused when it comes in.
It doesn't.
Okay.
For a dead person, it doesn't. The liquids that come out of it
Yeah.
do not cause impurity. Those do not cause impurity. Those do not cause impurity. That's our conclusion. It causes impurity if you're somebody who's if it's blood. If it's blood that comes out of the deceased. That was that original brisa on the bottom of the 87b. That if it's blood that comes out, so that they did make a that does cause impurity. But if it's another liquid like semen or tears or milk, those do not. You're right. It's interesting now that we said that by a deceased we don't make a decree, but that brisa did mention that blood still causes impurity. That's a good question. Sounds like
it says here you agree about its secretion will be considered tama.
That's only in the beginning, but then we concluded not that way. Yeah, then we conclude because the second brisa never said a deceased liquids cause impurity. It said there was two levels: stringent and lenient. And the question, what was that referring to? Let's just double check for a second. I got my thorn, my love. Yeah. So that's the conclusion that by a sheretz or by a zav, those secretions are going to cause impurity, but not by a deceased. But you are pointing out a good point that's everything except for blood. Blood will still cause. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah, fine. We said when you cover the blood up, so if it's the blood that spurts out and the blood on the knife, you still have to go and do kisui adam. So expanding on that, Tana Rabbanan says the price of a kiso, melamid shamanitas valshalos like chasos. So you should cover it up. I teach you that the blood that comes out, that spurts out, and the blood on the knife needs to be covered up. Meaning, the blood that spurts out, meaning you have a hole that you dug where the blood's going to go into. Even the blood outside the hole that spurts out, that also needs to be covered up, and the blood on your knife also has to be covered up. Amr Yehuda Emasai Bizman Shein Shamdam Elahu. If this is the only blood, Aval Yesh Shamdam Shalohu, you have blood that came out of the animal that went into the pit, and blood that went outside the pit. As long as you cover part of the blood, it's fine. So if a ton of blood spurts out, some of it is in the pit right next to you, and some of it is outside the pit. The halakha is as long as some of the blood that came out of the animal is covered up, you are good to go. I think they point out that blood that you're covering, you got to do 100% job. The blood that you are, meaning you have a lot of blood. You have a blood on this over here and blood over here. So you don't have to do all the blood of the animal. You only have to do some of the blood. I think they point out that the blood that you are covering up, though, I think it has to be 100%. So, Aval yesham dam shelo aval. Yeah. Kind of another price says so you have to cover it up melamich called damo chayiv. That all the blood is liable lechasos. So shekol damo chayiv lechasos. All the blood is liable to be covered over. Mikan amru damanitas v'shal agafayim chayiv lechasos. Blood that's outside the hole, you are liable to cover it up. V'shal agafayim. How do they translate agafayim? I forgot. Yeah, the kosev besa shchita. That means the area by the animal, where you slaughter the animal is called the besa shchita. So around that area, there's blood there. That also is liable and being covered up. Chayav lechasos. If you cover a part of it, you're good to go. Amar Rabban Shimon Gamliel b'medar mamurim shalo kisei dam hanefesh. Aval kisei dam hanefesh pater mi lechasos. So Rabban Shimon Gamliel is qualifying, and he's saying that's only if you didn't cover up the dam hanefesh. If you did cover up the dam hanefesh, so then you're good to go. Now, the dam hanefesh, Rashi had much earlier, so I think it's a debate. It's two opinions. Rashi learns from earlier that it's in the very beginning the blood is a little bit blackish, and then it becomes red. That red is called dam hanefesh. I think Tosfos says that it's not that. Rather, it's once the blood starts spurting out much faster, the strong flow. That's called the blood of the life blood. So So now these Rabbanan Savri damo kol damo. Rabbi Yehuda Savar damo vafilu mixas damo. The Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Savar damo hamiyuchad. So the rabbis say all the blood. Rabbi Yehuda says damo means some of the blood, and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says it has to be unique blood, only the dam hanefesh. So Rashi a little bit explains. So we have three opinions that the rabbis say all the blood needs to be covered up. Rabbi Yehuda says only a little bit of it, and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says all of the life blood, specifically that blood, has to be covered up. Yeah. So those are the three opinions in this brisa. Now, this gets a little interesting. With what can you cover up? So mechasen bezevel hadak, very thin dung. Bechol hadak, thin sand. Besid is lime. We'll see more about the lime. Ground up lime, liquidy lime. Ubecharosis, pottery. We'll see, it has to be ground up. Bilevana ubemagufa. So levana magufa is what different kinds of glass. No, brick. So sorry, ulevena. Ulevena is a brick. Sorry, ubemagufa is also a different kind of brick. That's what. Yeah. Shabbos, you cover it up with a magupa. It's an earthenware cover. Okay, good. Shekachin, but you have to grind these things up, and then use that to cover it up. So aval ein mechasen. Now we're going to say what you cannot cover up with. So it's going to be the opposite. Ein mechasen lo bezevel hagas, not with thick dung, below bechol hagas, not with thick sand, below belevena ubemagufa shelo kitchen, and not with the brick or the earthenware cap that has not been ground up. Below yichafe alav esakli. Now that's interesting. You can't just cover it up with a vessel. Put a bowl over it and that's it. So they ask, well, that's obvious. You have to cover it up. Covering it over with a cup or a bowl, that's not called covering it up. So the novelty is you can't do that and then avoid the mitzvah. Just like when we had the wind covers it over. So you're now exempt from the mitzvah. So you can't put yourself in a position to exempt yourself from the mitzvah. So you can't cover over the blood and say, oh, look, it's already covered. You can't. You have to actually go and cover it up. Qualification, what kind of dirt you can use, only an area that can grow things. I think we'll see. I think like the desert, it's so dry, can't grow anything. That dirt's not going to help. We'll see. We have different methods. You're going to burn your clothing, grind up your gold coin, and use that to cover up the blood. We'll see. I guess not today. Yeah, on mute. Okay. Sorry, back. Yeah. Okay. Right? Yeah. So okay. So Hechidami Choladak. What is the example of the thin sand? Amra Barchanam Rabbi Yochanan Kosh and a Yotzer Tzarich Lekatsho. Not Lekatsho, but Lekatsho, meaning anything that a former, right, someone who's working with this, does not need to grind up. That's the level that we're looking for. Now we have another statement. Some say this statement of Rabbi Yochanan is going on the latter part of the Mishnah, which says, you can't use thick dung or thick sand. What's an example of thick sand? What's the litmus test? What's the measurement? Anything which the former has to grind up, that's already too thick. Is there a difference in these two statements of Rabbi Yochanan? What's an example of something which is thin that you don't need to grind up? What's the example of something which is thick you do need to grind up? What's the difference? So ma'i beinayu ikebeinayu the tzarich velo tzarich the mifrach ifruche, that you do it's not fully ground up, but it's somewhat ground up. So Rashi, it's a debate which statement is allowed and which statement is not good. So Rashi explains though that the first statement that says that as long as you don't have to grind it up, so this has already been somewhat ground up, so that's no longer in the category of it has to be ground up, and therefore that would be permitted to use to cover up the blood. It's still considered thin sand or thin dung, but the second one is the second opinion that said that anytime you have thick sand and you have to grind it up, well, the former who's working with this still has to continue grinding it up. It's only ground up partially, not ground up fully, and therefore it's not going to be good to use. So depending on where you put this statement of Rabbi Yochanan, the beginning of the Mishnah or the end of the Mishnah is going to come out a difference. If it's partially ground, can you use it or can you not use it? You would think you could use stones to cover the blood, or maybe you could just take a vessel and put it over. So you have to use the dirt. Well, one second. Only dirt? We had a Mishnah full of other things too. Dong, sand, glass. Where'd that all come from? So how do you know to include the thin dong and the thin sand? And ground up stones, and ground up glass, una oris pishton, dak, and like very thin sand dust, sawdust. No. Chaff from flax. The next one is una storish shal charoshin. That's the sand dust, right? Daka. Visid and lime, vicharasis, and the what? The pottery clay and the levena and the brick and the magupa chakachan that you ground up. It only says with dirt. So how do you know to include all these other things? It says Talmud or vichiso, that you're going to cover it up. So it's coming to include not only dirt, but cover it up. It's coming to include other things as well. You would think to include everything: thick dung, thick sand, you take other metals and grind it up, or you could take the bricks that have not been ground up and the earthenware cover of a barrel that has not been ground up, or flour that's very coarse. Maybe you could use that. Talmud Lomar, no, the offer has to be with the dirt. Says the Gemara, 1 second. You're including certain materials and you're excluding others. Why? Maybe achar shariba kasavu miyet mar banias elu shehein min afar umotin elu shehein min afar. So very interesting. We'll stop here. Is that the brisa only included the things that are going to be considered dirt. The things that we mentioned are considered dirt, and the other things, not ground up sand, not ground up dung, is not considered dirt. So we're not adding really new categories. That's what it sounds like. We're just taking the definition of afar, of dirt, and expanding it. But the other things you would never consider dirt. You never considered a stone that you haven't ground up as dirt. Yeah. Okay, fine. Good.
Wow.
Okay, so Jules,